In downtown Richmond, you'll find street signs that bear some of history's most famous names. On the corner of North 11th and East Broad Street, there's a marker that honors someone you may not have heard of. But she meant an awful lot to those who knew her.
I walk by the street sign every day. I miss her. You know.
Dr. Lindsay Grizzard Braun was a PhD and nurse practitioner at VCU Health System.
She was extremely smart. She was extremely funny. She loved her job.
Adored by patients and colleagues alike, she had found her calling caring for others.
Lindsay was an advocate because she would speak her mind. If she thought something, she would say it. She just wanted to be there for people and do what she could to make people feel better.
But on July 31st, 2023, the life of this 30-year-old caregiver was cut tragically short.
I took an oath to protect public safety, and the one person I couldn't protect was my daughter.
Just after 2 in the afternoon, Lindsay was pulling out of the driveway of her South Richmond home when she was T-boned by another vehicle.
She had to be cut out of the car. Her husband heard the accident because it was in front of their house and came out and had to watch this.
She survived the initial impact.
They took her to MCV where she worked, where she asked to go, where she started suffering from the whiplash. It was so violent that she started suffering strokes, and they lost her in emergency brain surgery. We lost her.
Lindsay's death sent shockwaves through this close-knit medical community. She would receive a number of tributes. The first, an honor walk in recognition of her decision to be an organ donor.
About 3 days after her accident, they closed down the operating rooms at MCV, and all of her colleagues, her friends, doctors and nurses and staff lined the halls, where we followed behind while we wheeled her to the operating room.
6 months later, Richmond City Council passed a resolution for a permanent memorial.
Without further ado.
Right near the entrance of the hospital, that meant everything to her.
It was incredible. And when you looked around and were like, wow, who can bring this many people into one space just to honor someone for a few minutes?
Since it went up last year, Lindsay's mother, Mindy Applewhite, has made a couple of trips downtown to see her daughter sign, but she says each visit is accompanied by mixed emotions.
Good memories because she's forever looking over her people at MCV that she loved. Sad memories because she should be here.
Police say Tobias McLean was the driver of the car that hit Lindsay. He was going more than 30 miles per hour over the speed limit at the time of the crash. Mindy says he should have never been behind the wheel that day.
He was a violent offender that was on supervision in Richmond for shooting somebody in the back when he was 14 during a drug transaction. After he got out, he was arrested for, I believe, another reckless driving and 2 distributions of drugs, which were both certified to the grand jury. So he had 2 more pending felonies before he hit her.
Lindsay's mom spent her entire career on the parole and probation side of the criminal justice system, but she feels like it has now turned a blind eye to her family.
I understand how the system works because I worked in it my whole life. And probation officers and parole officers have an obligation to public safety. That should be their number one role. I understand that offenders sometimes deserve second and even third chances, but when you're proven yourself to be violent and disregard the law, it's time for you to come off the street before you victimize somebody else.
McLean ultimately pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter.
We agreed to a plea agreement to keep from having to go to trial and putting our family through listening to all the details of the crime again.
He was sentenced to 10 years behind bars, but 5 of that was suspended. He's scheduled to be released in 2027. Mindy knows she can't do anything to bring Lindsay back, but says her path to healing has driven her to become an advocate, just like her daughter.
What would help me is to help other families not become victims. What would help me is if somebody, the public safety director, the governor, I don't care who, reviewed the policies at the probation offices about the arrest authority that they have and removing violent felons from the streets.
Nearly 2 years since her passing, the pain is still present for Lindsay's loved ones, especially when there is a bittersweet reminder at every turn.
She had a lot of life to live, and she was just getting started, and she should have been able to see that through.
I'm gonna break it down. 1, 2. Very good, very good.
When Mother Nature serves up a hot summer day like this,
Now go for volley, go for volley. Good.
many would rather stay indoors. But these young Richmonders are perfectly happy being outside
Good. Split shot.
and making a racket.
That's it.
The Rising Stars Tennis Academy teaches kids of all ages
Thank you.
the ins
Break your wrist.
and outs
Volley. Be swift for the backhand.
of the game of kings
You have a favorite tennis player?
Center. Djokovic.
and queens.
Serena Williams when she did play, but other than that, probably Coco Golf.
I love Coco.
Like the campers he now coaches, James Skinner's tennis journey began at a young age,
When I was 12 years old,
and he gives all the credit to a local icon.
like most kids my age, we're all seniors now, we started based on Arthur Ashe. He inspired us to play.
So Arthur Ashe stands with 2 championship points, 40-15.
Arthur Robert Ashe Jr. may be the greatest athlete to ever be born in Virginia. He's certainly the best tennis player. Twice the Richmond native was ranked #1 in the world, and his most impressive on-court accomplishment came 50 years ago this month. On July 5th, 1975, Ashe conquered his rival Jimmy Connors to win the Wimbledon Championship, something no black men's player had ever done before.
Because of this man, Arthur Ashe, the first black player to win the men's Wimbledon singles title since it all started in 1877.
Well, considering the time and the history at that time and what was going on, it's a pretty phenomenal thing.
Ashe's nephew, David Harris, was just 2 years old when his uncle lifted the silver cup, but it's a moment that still fills him with great pride.
But to see that, you came from humble roots and beginnings to reach the pinnacle is it's a wonderful feat.
There are other athletes and other black leaders, period, who are using their positions of power and influence to wield some practical progress. So it's just simply saying to myself, Arthur, you must do something. You just cannot sit by and let the world go by.
However, Harris says his uncle's foremost achievement was advocating for the oppressed and underserved, and also the work he did to make the game he loved more accessible to all, especially children.
I encourage anybody to learn as early as possible, because when you get older, you're going to be frustrated. It's not the easiest sport to learn in a hurry.
The Northside Park where Ashe learned to smash and volley is long gone, but the courts at Richmond's Battery Park have essentially become an open-air museum with stunning murals at each end.
Lovely.
On this day, the Rising Stars are playing across town at Bird Park.
Ultimate honor, yes, absolutely.
Courts from which Ashe and other black players were once banned. But now, the boulevard that runs beside bears Ashe's name. And these courts are open to everyone.
I think that's what Arthur Ashe would have wanted. I think his whole concept was that a sport, it's not an elitist sport, it's not a sport for one race or people, or it's a sport for everyone that everyone can enjoy. And I think his efforts was to bring this country together on many levels, but he used tennis as his vehicle. And we're thankful and grateful for him that he's done that.
A lesson from the past that these future stars take to heart.
He was a great player.
Paved the way for a lot of African American tennis players.
And he also inspired a lot of people to come and try tennis.
Because no matter how you slice it,
I wish he was still alive to this day.
Arthur Ashe's favorite game should be about serving love.
1, 2, 3, 4, tennis!
Down in the CBS 6 archives, there are thousands of old videos collecting dust. The tapes inside this particular box haven't seen the light of day in decades. Though this is where you'll find an interview that was once at the center of one of Richmond's most mysterious murder cases.
People just don't disappear every day, especially a 17-year-old.
Everybody's heard about it, all my friends.
We have detectives that have been dispatched to other cities.
20 years ago this month, the disappearance of Taylor Beale was making headlines across the Commonwealth.
Whoever has her, Just let her walk away. Just let her go.
And the country.
Did she have to go to the car to meet up with them?
The 17-year-old VCU freshman went missing on Labor Day 2005.
She's gone. A bunch of people saw her last. Her car is gone. I don't know if she drove off or if something horrible did happen, God willing it didn't.
If anyone has information in this case, they're asked to contact the VCU Police Department immediately.
That next Sunday, September 11th, was the first time CBS 6 assigned a reporter to the story. Tracy Sears began her shift that afternoon by interviewing VCU's police chief. At that time, foul play was not considered a factor.
From all of her friends that we've talked to and her roommate, no evidence of any conflicts with anyone or anybody who indicated that, or she had indicated she was afraid of anyone or any indication that she might be taken by anyone.
Tracy then went less than a block down the street to the Village Cafe, a restaurant where Taylor had dined just hours before she vanished.
She said she was going skateboarding with some guys. She didn't tell me who.
That's where she met a man passing out flyers with Taylor's picture on them.
After she borrowed my skateboard, she said she wanted to drop her purse off, so I walked her back to the dorms. And after that, I kind of lose track of time.
His name was Ben Foley, and at first, he did not want to do an interview.
So I chatted with him off camera for about 20-25 minutes and somehow convinced him to do an interview with us where we just would not show his face, but his hands.
But the longer Foley talked, the more he contradicted himself.
So she came here to eat, then she went to your place.
I guess she came here to eat. That's the thing that...
I don't think it necessarily dawned on me that he would be a suspect, but I do know that his story did not make a whole lot of sense. I think the biggest red flag during that interview was he looked at me and he said, "I'm worried for Taylor. She told me she wants to do something illegal, something outrageous, and I warned her against it."
Later that night, Tracy sat down with Taylor's mother, Janet Pelissara.
I remember being torn as a reporter because we're supposed to be objective. We're supposed to stand back, just gather the facts. But I do remember a part of me looking at a young mother sitting across from me and just the fear in her eyes and thinking, I have to say something to her. I have to let her know that this might be someone worth talking to or looking into.
Pelissara said she did not know Foley, but that police were aware of him. Nobody realized it at the time, but Foley had been on the news before.
It doesn't bite.
CBS 6 had actually done a story about his quirky sticker-covered van a couple of years prior. In addition to being an artist, Foley was an amateur photographer who had an obsession with skulls. Just a few days after our interview, police would name Foley as a person of interest in Taylor's disappearance. He would soon be arrested and charged with possession of child pornography after police seized computers from his apartment near campus. In early October, Taylor's remains were found in a remote part of Matthews County. Foley would later admit to police that he was with her at the time of her death, claiming that he accidentally choked the teen to death during rough but consensual sex. Prosecutors, however, believed it was murder, but would need to prove that to a jury. The autopsy report likely would not have helped much, due to the condition of Taylor's remains by the time her body was found. So Tracy's interview likely would have played a starring role at trial, and she had to prepare to be a primary witness.
And I knew that I would be asked to take the stand in that trial. And I remember being very nervous about potentially having to expose myself in that way.
Are you pleading guilty of your own free will?
Yes. The trial never ended up taking place, as Foley would agree to a plea deal in August of 2006.
No one will really know the motive behind this and the reason a young girl had to lose her life.
And while the killer was sent away 2 decades later, this reporter's memories still linger near.
But I do find myself more, especially as I've gotten older, thinking about these cases and thinking about some of the people I've talked to and some of the heartbreaking parents that I've had to interview. And it just sort of lives there forever. And it's in the back of your mind, but it keeps you up at night. And it's a lot to reflect on.